London, the autumn of 1943. A report lands on the desk of R.V. Jones, Chief of Scientific Intelligence for the RAF. He has read many intelligence reports in this war. He stares at this one for a long time. It contains exact technical specifications for a ballistic missile the Germans are calling the A4. Fuel ratios, combustion chamber dimensions, guidance system schematics, the kind of data you'd expect from an engineer with access to the blueprints, not from an intelligence service thousands of miles away. He looks at the source notation. A young French woman, 23 years old, an interpreter. He will later say that it was the best single intelligence report he received during the entire war. This is the story of Jeannie Rousseau, the young Frenchwoman who talked German officers into handing her the secrets of Hitler's most advanced weapon. Her code name was Amnirix. Most people have never heard of her. Marie-Madeleine Rousseau was born in 1919 in Saint-Brook, a small city on the Brittany coast. She was the daughter of a French diplomat. The household was educated, multilingual, cosmopolitan. By the time she was a teenager, she spoke German and English fluently alongside her native French. Italian she learned later. She was not particularly interested in attention. She was interested in precision, in getting things exactly right. She went to Paris to study. She was brilliant, and she was, by all accounts of people who knew her, entirely aware of the effect she had in a room. Not vain, but accurate. She understood that charm was a tool, and she used it with the care of someone who understood its limitations as well as its uses. When Germany occupied France in June 1940, Rousseau was 20 years old. She immediately began organizing resistance in her region, helping British prisoners of war find routes south, collecting information, passing messages. She was arrested by the Germans in 1941, questioned, and released. The Gestapo apparently concluded she was too young and too well connected to be seriously involved. They were wrong. After her release, she moved to Paris and, through her language skills and family connections, obtained a position as a business interpreter for a French industrialist who worked with German military procurement officials. It was legitimate work, entirely above board. She was translating at meetings, drafting correspondence, facilitating the kind of transactional contact that kept occupied commerce functioning. And in those meetings, she started to listen. What Rousseau did over the following 2 years requires a particular kind of clarity to understand. She was not breaking into file rooms or photographing documents. She was not a saboteur or a courier in the conventional sense. She listened to German officers talk at dinner. This sounds inadequate as a summary. It is not. The German officers she worked with in her interpreter role were technically sophisticated military engineers, procurement specialists, men who dealt in the details of weapons development and logistics. Some of them were arrogant. Some were lonely. Some were flattered by the attention of an attractive, obviously intelligent young woman who actually understood what they were talking about. Rousseau learned, with great precision, how to ask the right questions in exactly the right way. The key to the technique, as she later described it to David Ignatius of the Washington Post, in a rare interview she gave in her 70s, was to appear skeptical, not enthusiastic. A good spy, she said, does not let people see her interest. She would question the claims German officers made, suggest they were exaggerating, express polite disbelief. Pride is a reliable mechanism. You tell a man you don't believe his secret weapon is as powerful as he's claiming, and he will often produce more details to convince you. By 1943, she had made contact with the Alliance Network, one of the largest resistance intelligence organizations in occupied France, and she had begun systematically transmitting what she heard to London via the network's radio operators. The information was technical, detailed, and unlike anything London had been receiving from conventional sources. Then she got access to something far more specific. Through her interpreter work, she was invited, or arranged to be present, at a restricted briefing attended by German military engineers who had been directly involved in the development program at a Baltic research facility called Peenemünde. They spoke about a weapon that flew faster than sound and carried enough explosive to level a city block. They called it the A4. She asked skeptical questions. She took nothing to write. She walked out of the room and transcribed everything she could remember from detailed, precise memory. What she had in her head on her walk home through occupied Paris was a nearly complete technical portrait of the V-2 ballistic missile. Her report reached London in stages, carried by resistance couriers across occupied Europe and by other means, eventually arriving on R.V. Jones's desk in the form of a document that, unlike so much wartime intelligence, was not vague or impressionistic but specific. Dimensions, propellant chemistry, approximate range, the Baltic coast location of the production facility. Jones and his colleagues had been accumulating intelligence about the German rocket program for months, from aerial photography, from prisoner interrogations, from other resistance sources. Much of it was ambiguous. Rousseau's report was not ambiguous. It was a technical document produced by a trained, precise memory on behalf of someone with direct access to the engineers who'd built the thing. On the night of August 17, 1943, 596 RAF Lancaster and Halifax bombers flew to a point on the Baltic coast called Peenemünde, where Germany's most advanced weapons research facility was located. Operation Hydra. The bombing killed approximately 735 people at the site, many of them Ukrainian forced laborers, a fact the histories tend to understate, and destroyed significant infrastructure, including the housing barracks for lead engineers. The V-2 program was set back, by most estimates, by 6 months to a year. The V-2, when it eventually began striking London and Antwerp in 1944, killed approximately 9,000 people. The 6-month delay almost certainly meant that the Allied landings in Normandy took place before the missiles could influence the outcome strategically. What Rousseau had gathered at a dinner table in Paris may well have changed the arithmetic of the war. She did not know any of this at the time. She was still in Paris, still working, still listening. The Germans were looking for the source of the Peenemünde intelligence. They arrested her in July 1944. She was 24 years old when they took her. She had been named as a British agent. The exact circumstances of her betrayal were never fully established. She was sent east. What followed was a transit through 4 concentration camps. Ravensbrück, then Torgau, then Königsberg, then Zwickau. She survived all 4. How she survived, in the specific physical sense, what she did, what she endured, what she told them or didn't tell them during interrogation, she never fully discussed publicly. In her rare interviews, she described the camps in terms of observation rather than confession. She noted what she saw. She spoke about others. She was liberated in the spring of 1945 from Zwickau, near Falkenau, by American forces. She was, by all accounts, barely alive. She returned to France. She resumed her education. She had not finished before the war. She married a French diplomat, Aimé de Clarens. She had children. She lived a private life. For decades, she spoke almost nothing about what she had done. The intelligence world knew R.V. Jones wrote about her work in Most Secret War, and she was cited in classified reports as one of the most valuable agents of the war. But the public did not know her name. She finally spoke at length in 1999, in the Washington Post interview, at the age of 79. She received the Legion of Honor from France, the U.S. Medal of Freedom, and recognition from British intelligence services. She died in 2009 at 90 years old. There is something uncomfortable in the way Jeannie Rousseau's story was stored. Not forgotten, the professionals remembered her, the intelligence historians documented her. But in the popular version of the Second World War, she was not there. She did not appear in the films. She was not on the commemorative stamps. Part of this is the nature of intelligence work. The best operations are the ones that cannot be publicly acknowledged. Part of it was that what she did looked, from the outside, like nothing, a young woman at dinners in Paris asking questions, listening. The other part is harder to articulate. She did it. She did it at 23 years old, in an occupied city, at dinners with people who would have killed her without deliberation if they'd known what she was doing. She spoke later about the loneliness of it, the impossibility of explaining to anyone who hadn't been there what it was like to sit across a dinner table from someone who was proud of a weapon that was going to kill your countrymen, and smile and ask them to tell you more. She asked them to tell her more. And because of what they told her, fewer people died. That's as plain as it can be stated. If the story moved you, subscribe to follow the Untold Front. New stories every week.